Chapter 9. And when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon, she come to prove Solomon with hard questions at Jerusalem, with a great train, and camels that bore spices, and gold in abundance, and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she spoke with him of all that was in her heart. And Solomon told her all of her questions, and there was not anything hid from Solomon which he told her not. And when the queen of Sheba had seen the wisdom of Solomon, and the house that he had built, and the food of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, his cupbearers also and their apparel, and his ascent by which he went up into the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her. And she said to the king, It was a true report that I heard in mine own land of thine acts, and of your wisdom. However, I believed not their words until I came, and mine eyes had seen it. And behold, the half of the greatness of your wisdom was not told me. You exceedest the fame that I heard. Happy are your men, and happy are these your servants, that stand continually before you, and hear your wisdom. Blessed be the Lord your God, who delighteth in you, to set you on his throne, to be king for the Lord your God. Because your God loved Israel, to establish them forever, therefore made he you king over them, to do justice and righteousness. And she gave the king 120 talents of gold, and spices in great abundance, and precious stones. Neither was there any such spice as the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. And the servants also of Hiram, and the servants of Solomon, that brought gold from Ophir, brought sandalwood and precious stones. And the king made of the sandalwood paths for the house of the Lord, and for the king's house, and harps and psalteries for the singers, and there was none such seen before in the land of Judah. And King Solomon gave to the queen of Sheba all her desire, whatsoever she asked, beside that which she had brought unto the king. So she turned and went to her own land, she and her servants. Now the weight of the gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold, beside that which the traffickers and merchants brought, and all the kings of Arabia, and the governors of the country brought gold and silver to Solomon. And King Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold. 600 shekels of beaten gold went to one target. 300 shields of beaten gold also. 300 shekels of gold went to one shield. And the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory, and overlaid it with pure gold. And there were 6 steps to the throne, with a footstool of gold, which were fastened to the throne, and arms on either side of the place of the seat, and 2 lions standing beside the arms. And 12 lions stood there on the one side and on the other upon the 6 steps. There was not the like made in any kingdom. And all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were pure gold. Silver was nothing accounted of in the days of Solomon. For the king had ships that went to Tarshish with the servants of Hiram. Once every 3 years came the ships of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom, and all the kings of the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. And they brought every man his present, vessels of silver, and vessels of gold, and raiment, armor, and spices, horses, and mules, a rate year by year. And Solomon had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots, and 12,000 horsemen, that he bestowed in the chariot cities, and with the king at Jerusalem. And he ruled over all the kings from the river, even unto the land of the Philistines, and to the border of Egypt. And the king made silver to be in Jerusalem as stones, and cedars made he to be as sycamore trees, that are in the lowland for abundance. And they brought horses for Solomon out of Egypt, and out of all lands. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, first and last, are they not written in the words of Nathan the prophet, and in the prophecies of Ahiah the Shilonite, and in all the visions of Jehu the seer concerning Jeroboam the son of Nebat? And Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel 40 years. And Solomon slept with his fathers. They buried him in the city of David, his father, and Rehoboam, his son, reigned in his stead. All right, let's go back up to verse 1. And we remember yesterday the Solomon had finished building the house, and he had went to establish posts, even these places of fortification in certain cities that even Curam had given back, and these were the cities that had been taken over in times past, and Solomon set his places there, and Solomon built his wife from the house of Pharaoh, that daughter of Pharaoh even, he took for a wife, and built her a house. But now we're going to pick up here in this story of the Queen of Sheba. Queen is going to be that feminine ruler. She is usually a wife of a king, not always. And this queen is going to be that feminine ruler we had heard about that was coming. And we'll pick it up here in verse 1. And when the queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon, she came to prove Solomon with her hard questions at Jerusalem, with a very great train. Camels bore spices and gold in abundance and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she spoke with him of all that was in her heart. So now the queen of Sheba, Sheba is oath, means oath. And in this sense that we're using it here, it would be, if we was talking about numbers, it would be 7. And 7 is usually a sense of perfection. And this queen, even of this perfect oath, heard of the fame of Solomon. And this fame, even that fame which we had heard about, was going to be bestowed. God was going to bring great fame. And he did. He was. And he was building up. We'll find God was building up a mighty house and a mighty kingdom. She came to prove Solomon with these hard questions at Jerusalem. And Solomon is that peace God promised he was to send into Jerusalem. Even he is the king that God has placed at Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is those teachings of peace. That place even of the teachings of peace. And she has come with a great train, and that's with a whole lot of people. She has come with these camels, got spices on them, and camels that's got gold in abundance, and all these precious stones loaded on camels, and all kinds of things come up. This is a train. It would be a group of animals that time. Today we would think of it as like several semis coming, loaded with things. And when she was come to Solomon, she spoke with him of all that was in her heart. So when she gets to Jerusalem and she speaks to Solomon everything that she had wondered about his kingdom, we'll find that God had loaned to him. And Solomon told her all her questions, and there was not anything hid from Solomon which he told her not. So Solomon answers all of her questions we will find with all his great wisdom, because this will be something that God bestows. And when the queen of Sheba, 3, had seen the wisdom of Solomon and the house that he had built, and when she had looked around and she had seen all these great things, all his wisdom and his knowledge, his worldly understanding, Solomon, and the house that he had built, we'll find, because it was a great house, and David had prepared to build for many years, and God had prospered, God had collected and helped, and the food of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers, and their apparel, his cupbearers also, and their apparel, and his ascent by which he went up to the house of the Lord. There was no spirit in her. And when she had witnessed and seen all the great things that Solomon had, all this stuff at Solomon's table, this is the place where he would eat, that was set before him even, when God had set it there, and the sitting of his servants that God had given him, and the attendance of his ministers, which God had provided, and their apparel, all the greatness, his cupbearers also, and their apparel. And their apparel is what they're covered with, their adornment, because we'll see they was dressed like nobility. and his ascent by which he went up to the house of the Lord. And this would be how Solomon went up to the house of God, the king, that her spirit was not in her. She was just, we could say, dumbfounded by it, astonished. She was amazed. 5. And she said to the king, it was a true report that I heard in mine own land of your acts and your wisdom. And she had heard, well, fine, see, because this fame, God had spread this fame throughout all the lands of this mighty, wonderful, beautiful kingdom, this great king of all the earth that he had established, and all the wisdom and richness and wealth, and it was a fame, and that's what fame is. 6. However, I believed not their words until I came, and mine eyes had seen it. And behold, the half of the greatness of your wisdom was not told me. You exceedest the fame that I heard. And she says that she didn't believe none of it till she had come to see it with her own eyes. And that's why she had come with this great train, that surely such a great king as this she would go up and pay tribute to. And she had came, and once she had seen it all, and the greatness of his wisdom, which God give him, we remember, she said that he exceeded all that she had heard, and all that she had known, all that had been told even. 7. Happy are your men, and happy are these your servants, that stand continually before you, and hear your wisdom. And she noticed that everybody was happy. It was all a beautiful, wonderful kingdom, and everything was going great, and all the servants were happy, and everybody that stood before Solomon that heard of his wisdom. 8. Blessed be the Lord your God, who delighted in you, to set you on his throne, to be king for the Lord your God, because your God loved Israel, to establish them forever. Therefore made he you king over them, to do justice and righteousness. And blessed be the Lord your God. Blessed be God, who delighted in you. Because God did do all this, and God did set the king up, and God did give the king the kingdom to rule over. We'll find God did, in justice and righteousness, just as God claimed, because he did love Israel, and he did intend to establish all those that contend with the mighty one, even forever. 9. And she gave the king 120 talents of gold, and spices in great abundance, and precious stones. Neither was there any such spice as the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. And she gives to the king a present, this 120 talents of gold. And this 100, because it's always judgment. 100 is judgment. It's 10 tens. It's the law, even the law of the law. That's judgment, we remember. 10 times did they sin against the Lord, and he said, take your turn. And she gave this 100, that's judgment, this 20 talents of gold even, to witness the law. That witness the law, 2 tens. That's redemption, to witness the law. Even weighed out, this measurement of talents, that's the sum of it, that those things that belong to God, gold. That's the gold. And spices were in great abundance, and these spices are that which makes a pleasant odor. See, it's a pleasant smell, it's a pleasantness. And precious stones. These precious stones is all manners of stones, these things that are made firm, of different colors, various colors. That's what they are. Neither was there any such spice as the queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. And this great abundance even of spice, neither was there any such known, that what this queen, even this feminine authority of this perfect oath, gave to King Solomon. That's of peace, this great pleasant odor, even. 10. And the servants also of Kiram, and the servants of Solomon, that brought gold from Ophir, brought sandalwood and precious stones. And these servants of Kiram, those servants of nobility, and those that serve nobility, and the servants of Solomon, and those that serve even peace, even that peace that God sent, that brought gold from Ophir. And they brought gold from Ophir, and that gold that comes from Ophir is this purest. It always represents the purest of gold. discussed that Ophir was that which was reduced to ashes, probably referring to some kind of great furnace that was probably there to process this gold. And they brought that sandalwood as well, and them precious stones. And those precious stones are those stones of many colors, those various stones. They represent those things that are to stay, that glisten, that shine, different colors. And this pure gold and this sandalwood. I believe the King James version either refers to it as an algum or an almug. The algum tree, it would be what the King James version says. And this is it's a beautiful wood. It's reddish. Some species are with these black streaks, and it's known for its great beauty, even, and its great ability to be able to work. And the king made of the sandalwood paths for the house of the Lord and for the king's house, and harps and psalteries for singers, and there were none such seen before in the land of Judah. And the king made of the sandalwood, and that those trees that were hewn down and made and brought, he made for the paths of the house of the Lord. And these paths are those things they walk on, they go by. And for the king's house as well. And he made these harps and these psalteries for the singers, those that give praise on the instruments, which were like unto those that David had made to give, these harps and these psalteries, these things that make these twangings, those memories, which called a memory to God, and these psalteries, those things that even hold all that. There were none like that in Judah. Even the beauty of those instruments, I would imagine, 12. And King Solomon gave to the queen of Sheba all her desire, whatsoever she asked, beside that which she had brought unto the king. So she turned and went to her own land, she and her servants. So the queen's visit's over, and she is going to return unto her own land with these many presents that Solomon has bestowed upon her, all that she would ask for, and she turns with her servants and goes back to her own land where she came from. 13. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. And this weight of gold, that measure which was weighed out, and that which belonged to God anyway, that came to Solomon, that came to this piece, even this that God sent, in 1 year. And one, it's a beginning. See, one is the beginning. It is of the year. In this year would be a whole cycle, even a greater cycle, the greater understandings even, was 666 talents. 600, see, 6 days shall you do your work. 6, it is the work of man. 100 is judgment. It's going to be the work of man, even in judgment. And these 60, or 60, 60 is 60. 3 20s, 20 is a score. 3 means complete. Score is redemption. It's 20. 20 is redemption. It's because you witness the law. We can completely witness the law in this gold that's being weighed out here. This 6 talents. That's that gold that's measure that's being weighed out. This work of man that's being weighed out here of that which belongs to God. And we're going to find out it's judgment. It's judgment. 14. Beside that which the traffickers and merchants brought, and all the kings of Arabia and the governors of the country brought gold and silver to Solomon. And all the traffickers and these merchants, they brought, all the kings of Arabia. And Arabia is that, those step dwellers, and those steps, well, that represents something. Each one is a step. It's a step forward, a step up. It's progress. It's an asher. Each one has a representation, and those that dwell there upon those steps, even those traffickers, these merchandisers, we'll find out, they dwell in the shadows there of the steps. All the governors of the countries brought gold and silver, that which belongs to God, and that which is going to pass through the fire. 15. And King Solomon made 200 targets of beaten gold. 600 shekels of beaten gold went into one target. And King Solomon made these 200 targets of beaten gold. He's Solomon's peace. This king of peace made these 200 targets of beaten gold. 2, witness. 2 is witness. Now, witness these 2, even 100, and that's judgment. These targets. These are something that's sharp, it pierces. It's even got a barb on the end, so it has to pass all the way through. It's not something you'll want to pull back out. These 200 barbs of beaten gold, barb like a thorn or something that pierces greatly. These witness these judgments of piercing, the beaten gold, that which is pounded out of that which belongs to God. 600 shekels of beaten gold went to one target. 600, it's the work of man in judgment being weighed out. That's that shekel. That's that temple measure. That's that measured out of beaten gold. That which belongs to God, been beaten out, went into one target. And then even into the beginning of these piercings. 16. 300 shields of beaten gold also. 300 shekels of gold went to one shield. And the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. 300 shields of beaten gold also. 300, it's complete judgment in these shields of beaten gold. These shields are those things that it's in your left hand. It goes to protect you. It's something you can raise up. It's like a covenant, so to speak, of beaten gold, beaten out of that which belongs to God also. These 300 shekels of gold went to one shield. 300 shekels of gold went to one shield. 3, complete judgment now. In that temple measuring, it was measured out. It's weighed out of that which belongs to God, goes into one shield, and that is that beginning of that shield, or even that covenant. And the king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon, and he puts them over into the house, the bed of the forest of Lebanon, that forest of exalted trees. Even that's what a forest is, of many trees, those things that are exalted, of Lebanon. And that place made white. Lebanon means white. It refers to whiteness, pureness. 17. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with pure gold. Moreover, even in addition to, the king made a great throne, this great throne of ivory. Ivory's that made from the tusks and horns, and it's white, and with these grains, and we see it's like a white wood almost, and he overlays it with pure gold, and that pure white pureness from the horn is overlaid with this pure gold that belongs to God. 18. And there were 6 steps to the throne, with a footstool of gold, which were fastened to the throne, and arms on either side by the place of the seat, and 2 lions standing beside the arms. And there were 6 steps. Once again, these steps that go up and forward at the same time. This is an asher. This is these 6. It's the work of man in these steps to the throne, with a footstool of gold. And this footstool of gold is that footstool. It's a place to rest your feet. It's a place to rest your path, made of gold, that which belongs to God, which were fastened to the throne. That throne represents the seat of authority, and the arms on either side by the place of the seat. And these arms on either side is a place to rest the arms, rest from your work, your arms, these that have given you great strength, that you work by. And these 2 lions standing beside the arms. Witness now these lions standing by the arm. These lions represents these great strengths, even of terror. These that have the ability to rip and tear, and they always have. That's why they were the king. This majestic beast of great strength and ability to rip and tear its prey, that stand by the arms. 19. And 12 lions stood there on the one side and on the other upon the 6 steps. There was not the like made in any kingdom. And this great throne that went upward by these 6 steps had these 12 lions. 12 witnessed the law. No, witness the law, because we're going to witness the law here in a minute. God's going to give us a witness. 12 is because that's understanding when we witness the law. These lions, those ones that have the ability to tear and rip, stood there on one side and on the other upon the 6 steps. They was on both sides, 6 on each side, going down these 6 steps. This was the work of man in its ascension, as we remember, these steps that go upward. There was not like made in any kingdom. There was no one had a throne like this. It was made at great cost. It was designed. 20, all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. Silver was nothing accounted in the days of Solomon, for all the great wealth that he had, and all King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold. And we'll find out Solomon drank from pure gold. These vessels, that which contains the drink, or this understanding even, was of God. All the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. And all the vessels, those things which contain, that were in the house that of the forest of Lebanon, were of pure gold. And that was that of pure gold, that which belongs to God. Silver was nothing accounted in the days of Solomon. And silver was nothing. These things that would pass through the fire, this silver was viewed as nothing in the days or in the understandings of Solomon. Even those days, those little periods of Solomon, that of peace. 21. For the king had ships that went to Tarshish with the servants of Kiram. Once every 3 years came the ships of Tarshish, bringing gold and silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. For the king had ships that went to Tarshish with the servants of Kiram. And Solomon had these ships that sailed the seas. We're going to find out what happens to these ships later that go to Tarshish. Tarshish is that place of stones. It's not just a place of stones. It's these stones that are there are these yellowish stones. They look like gold, but it's not real gold. With the servants of Kiram. Kiram are those of nobility, those even that have exalted themselves. We can tell by their attire, so to speak. Once every 3 years, to complete all these greater understandings, did these ships go to Tarshish, bringing gold. And that's that place of stones, to bring the gold, that which belongs to God, and silver, that which is going to pass through the fire, and this ivory, that of the pure strengths, these horns, that's what they stand for, and these apes and these peacocks, these exotics, all these exotic creatures, and these apes and these peacocks. 22. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. So King Solomon exceeds all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. And this great wealth, God says he's going to make it as high as it gets. The great kingdom, God has set it up. God did all this. All this wealth, all these riches, all this wisdom, all this, everything of gold, that which belongs of God. 23. And all the kings of the earth sought to the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God put in his heart. And all the kings of the earth, and the earth is just the good old ground and everything that comes from it, sought the presence of Solomon, that peace that God had give, to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. Even in his understanding, God had put his wisdom. And that wisdom is simple. It's the law of God. God gave it to everybody in the beginning. No one's got to go get it for you. 24. And they brought every man his present, vessels of silver and vessels of gold, and raiment, armor, and spices, horses and mules, a rate year by year. And they brought every man his present. These vessels, those things which contain the silver, that which has been passed through the fire and purified, and vessels of gold, those things which contain that which belongs to God, and raiment, those coverings, all manners of coverings, and these coverings represent these understandings, or these agreements, so to speak, we might have. Armor, those protections that were given, that we can protect the flesh with, and spices, all manners of odor and all pleasantness, horses, these great strengths, and mules. Mules is that which is sterile. It represents sterility of strength, and that which can't bring forth but is like a horse, having great strength, and like the ass which carries the burden, a rate year by year. And this rate is a measure required year by year. Even these greater understandings, one that follows another. 25. And Solomon had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots, and 12,000 horsemen, that he bestowed in the chariot cities and with the king at Jerusalem. And Solomon had these 4,000 stalls for horses. 4,000 stalls for horses. And these 4,000, because see, it's the work of God being fulfilled here. These stalls for all these horses and chariots. These horses, those things of great strength. These chariots, these war machines. See, these stalls of these horses, these places where these great strengths are held, in these chariots, because we remember in Deuteronomy 17, God said you shouldn't do this. 12,000 horsemen. Now witness the law here and fulfillment. These horsemen, these men that sit on these great strengths, because 12's understanding that he bestowed in the chariot cities, and with the king at Jerusalem, because he bestowed these men in these chariot cities, these cities that have a guard of these war machines, these that represents the judgments of God, and with the king at Jerusalem, even with the king, even in Jerusalem, that place of the teachings of peace. And he ruled over all the kings, from river unto the land of the Philistines and the border of Egypt. And he rules over all the kings of the river, even from the land of the Philistines to the border of Egypt. And the Philistines, those drifters even, those that drifted from God, all the way to the border of Egypt, that land of enclosures, that land of pits. All the kings from the river. And this river probably is the Euphrates, because he would rule on the other side of Jordan as well. 27. And the king made silver to be in Jerusalem as stones, and cedars made he to be as sycamore trees that are in the lowland for abundance. And the king made silver, this that passes through the fire, has to be purified. And Jerusalem was like stones. These stones, these things that firm, solid, there to stay. And then Jerusalem, this place of peaceful teachings. And these cedars, those things that are everlasting. That's what cedars represents, these everlasting trees, these exalted things. Made he to be as sycamore trees, and these sycamore trees are probably more like a fruit tree that grows into the field, that are in the lowland for abundance. That lowland here is this valley, and this would be Shephatal. It's a feminine sense, so it's a pleasant lowland. That's even that lowland, that place that represents the valley. It's like a crack where they fall into, they can't get out of for abundance. Even that pleasant place. 28. And they brought horses for Solomon out of Egypt and out of all lands. And they brought these horses for Solomon out of Egypt and out of all lands. They brought these horses, these things of strength for Solomon, for this peace which God had made, which God had give, that he said he was going to give, out of Egypt, out of that place of enclosures, out of all the lands, out of everywhere, but out of Egypt is mentioned here specifically, because God said you shall not go back there for these strengths, even of war. 29. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, first and last, are they not written in the words of Nathan the prophet, and in the prophecies of Ahiah the Shilonite, and in the visions of Yedo the seer concerning Jeroboam the son of Nebat? Now all the rest of the acts of Solomon, everything that Solomon did, first and last, are they not written in the words of Nathan the prophet? Nathan is that given speaker, that which this given, it's speaker in the prophecies of those spoken words of Ahiah. Ahiah is the brother of God, or the one of the same understanding of God, the Shilonite. And that's those of the place of the rest, those from Shiloh, that place even of rest from old, and in the visions of Yedo, the seer concerning Jeroboam the son of Nebat. And Yedo, even the appointed, those visions, these things we can perceive with understanding and see of the appointed seer. He was the seer, these visions that can be seen. And that's those visions that are concerning Jeroboam. He was the son of Nebat. And we would have found out about Jeroboam in the book of Kings. See, that's where we learned about this and what went on then. See, this was going to be concerning when the kingdom gets divided. Jeroboam, the strife of the people, and we're going to find out about this strife of the people and the one that causes them to strive, the son of Nebat. He is those that they look upon or regard as, to see as. This we can see as or perceive. 30. And Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel 40 years. And Solomon reigned in Jerusalem. That's that peace that God give. He reigns in Jerusalem over that city of the peaceful teachings for 40 years. And over all Israel, those that contend with the Mighty One, 40 years. That's the work of God in the law. See, it's kind of like probation. God's working in the law in the greater understandings during this period. 31. And Solomon slept with his fathers. They buried him in the city of David his father. And Rehoboam his son reigned in his stead. And Solomon slept with his fathers. And he goes, and to rest with his fathers is the same as to die or to leave this world in a fleshful understanding. They buried him in the city of David his father. That's that city, that place that has a guard of David, that he's the beloved, that chosen one. This would be Zion, and that's that parched place. And Rehoboam his son reigns in his stead. And Rehoboam's going to be the king. Rehoboam's going to take over the throne of Israel. Rehoboam means to rehob, is to enlarge, to make wide, to increase the people. That's going to be Rehoboam, the one who enlarges, or referred to increase the people. And we'll find out a little more about them. We're going to move forward to chapter 10. Turn and return.